We didn't come this far to slow down now. Let 2021 be the year that you light up, that you wake up, that you shake up that special something in your soul, that you reach out and work for that health, that life, that vibrant living you know is possible. Let this be the year. Let this be the day. Let this be the moment that you believe in miracles again. Hey everybody, it is Dr. Devin and we are back for another episode of If They Knew, and I have invited a very close personal inspiration in my life. This is a mama bear from my practice, a woman who has weathered a lot of storms, probably throughout her life, but during the time that I have known her, I've gotten to stand beside her through a few of those storms, and she continues to take my breath away with her strength and grace. Please welcome Miss Shelby to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so grateful. And part of my calling, I guess, motivation for bringing you here is one of the hot buzzwords of our time is the experts, right? Like, who are the experts? And one of my hopes for humanity is that we all seek to become the masters of our own fate, so to speak, that we claim our responsibility in our healthcare decisions, and that creates freedom. And I don't know very many people that I have witnessed firsthand grab health and happiness in their own two hands like you. So tell people who don't know you yet and meeting you for the first time, who are you, and just a little bit about where you're at in the world and what you do.
Well, like you said, I'm a mama bear first and foremost, which 3 years ago, I would have never anticipated where my life is now. I live here in Wichita, Kansas. My husband's a fireman, 2 little girls, 2 under 2. Life is crazy. One is 3.5 months old. Her name is Caroline, and Summer is nearing 2 in June.
Oh, so many things. And you work, right? Like,
Yes.
Yeah, you have, are you working full time right now?
I'm part-time right now and kind of PRN. So I'm a dental hygienist here in town.
Yeah. And the dental field's been an interesting one this year. Yes.
Yes. Navigating that and just recommendations and protocols, and it's a headache.
Roller coasters. And again, like there's a community roller coaster and storms that we've been through, but you've had a lot yourself as well. And, the reason for the name on the show as it stands is If They Knew, because we all have a story that carves us out and teaches us something. And then there's this longing, right? That we kind of ache for more people to know these things because they've created more health, more happiness, more freedom, more whatever it is. And I think this could go a lot of different routes because you've had so many lessons over the years that I've known you. But Shelby, what do you wish the world knew or understood better?
Like you said, there's so much I could say right now, but I think my main takeaway through everything with my journey is you have to do the work. You have to advocate for yourself. It's about you. And I know one of your other speakers touched on this, but also trusting your knowing, because I didn't for a long time. And thankfully, I have a husband who did trust my knowing. And I'm where I'm at because of that.
So now we're going to rewind. And I mean, I'll start crying, but I can go back in my mind to the day that I anchor in with you, but go back when you say my healing journey, what brought you to this understanding? What brought you to this knowing? What have you been through?
So starting back in June of 2018, I had gotten back from a lake trip with family, been going to the same lake house for 20 some years, nothing abnormal. And I didn't feel great that first week after, just abnormal stuff. Felt like my heart was racing, headaches, but I kind of just brushed it off. I had always been healthy up until then, no issues. And kind of the way I was brought up, just brush it off your shoulder, you're fine, push through. And symptoms just like started building on top of each other. All these different things that just seemed really abnormal to me. I was at work a week later after those symptoms started, and we had blood pressure cuffs at work, and I took my blood pressure and it was just extremely high. So for like a 20-some-year-old girl, no prior health issues, I was like, this is abnormal. And so I went to the minor care just down the street from my work, and their job is to make sure you're not dying. Wasn't dying. They're like, oh, everything's good. They did like check my heart, all these different things. You're fine. You're probably having anxiety or panic attacks. Are you feeling stressed? No, actually, I feel really good. Like life's good, nothing new or abnormal. And so I left there, kind of brushed it off. A couple more weeks go by, just all kinds of symptoms. The heart, chest pains, ringing in my ears, my bones just hurt. It was hard to get out of bed. And so a couple other emergency visits later and a doctor's visit, they're like, oh, it's just a panic attack or anxiety. Here's some anti-anxiety pills. And a little backstory. When we were at the lake, we had taken a lot of ticks off my dogs. And I never had a tick on me, but my husband being with me, he asked the doctors, hey, could it be tick related? Should we, check for tick illnesses? And they're like, no. None of these signs or symptoms would equate to that. And so a couple more weeks went by, and like, I just felt so out of my body, never felt that way, just all these horrible symptoms. And it was really scary. Kind of had put me into this fight or flight mode. And at that time, I had exhausted all the doctors' emergency rooms. And your cousin, Brittany Verana, who goes by Verana now, I think, I saw her post on Facebook about getting adjusted by Dr. Joey. And I was like, well, let's try chiropractic. I don't know what else. Maybe they can help me. Maybe there's something they can do for me. And so that's how I got to you. So I started seeing you
for syncing us up.
Yes.
You never know where a random Facebook post could open a door for someone. So thank you, love, for that. And sharing that. Okay, yeah.
You're fine. I know. I like truly believe now everything I've been through that like God or whatever you believe in, there's a plan and everything is just happening for you. You just don't realize it. So at that point, I'd gone to see you and had a few adjustments, and you were going to reach out to people you knew. And my husband, he finally was like, there is something wrong. This is not anxiety. This is not panic attacks. I know you. And he reached out to his family doctor that he had seen since he was a kid. And his family doctor said, okay, I'll see her. Let's run tests that they haven't done. Let's figure out what we can do. And so he saw me, and they did some other scans, like a CT scan, coming up fine. And my husband asked him again, do you think this could be doctors prior to this? And he was like, well, let's run a tick panel. And so a week and a half goes by, and that lab comes back, and sure enough, I have Rocky Mountain spotted fever. And it was so weird. I was at work, and I remember getting the email, and I was like jumping with joy that I had this, that something was wrong with me, which is so abnormal. But I guess for me, it was affirmation that it's not all in my head and that something was going on.
There's so many people that have come through my doors or, throughout the years that they almost get to a point where they want something to be wrong because the alternative is they're nuts, right? You feel crazy because you have all these feelings and people are like, but you're not dying, right? Like anxiety, you go through that realm, and it can, I have to imagine that feels so isolating when you just want somebody to see it. You want somebody to, because you're the only one feeling it.
Oh, completely, completely. And I honestly like had chalked it up to, okay, I guess I'm crazy. You're completely right. Because I just didn't have any answers or resolution, and self was my advocate.
Mhm. And so you find
So
out, and did that diagnosis come with, what, I mean, because I don't know where the listener might be from, but from here, treatment options, doctor options really are extremely limited. Resources and support just in general for people with tick-borne illnesses or Lyme. And yeah, walk us through that.
completely. A lot of the doctors I encountered too, they were like, oh, tick illnesses aren't in Kansas. That's not a thing. And I said, well, I was in Missouri. So it is a thing. Come to find out upon further research and the more people you talk to, there's tick illnesses in Kansas. But most doctors fail to recognize that. Several of the ER doctors we had asked if it could be tick related just laughed at me, just didn't take me seriously. So that was a knife in the road, navigating that. And so once we saw my husband's family doctor, he started me on an antibiotic, and that did start to help. Sorry. And I did get a little bit better, but I started researching. I had chiropractic care, and I started researching and joining these different groups on Facebook for support groups, things like that, to just see what I could do to feel better. Because I wanted to do anything to get better at that point. So chiropractic, I started seeing a naturopathic doctor. I did lymphatic tissue drainage, ionic foot baths, anything that could detox my body to help me feel better. And so navigating that world was very different because it was foreign to me. I'd just gone to the doctor my whole life, traditional Western medicine, something's wrong, here's an antibiotic. Here's something.
This was a little more complex without, well, not a little, a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, because I just didn't, have the resources either. And so once I found somebody, they knew somebody. And so I started surrounding myself with people who are like-minded, who knew what my goal was, and that was to get better. And so I was doing anything and everything to get better. And so I don't know what was working and what wasn't, which probably wasn't the best route to go, but I was desperate because I don't know. I know I wasn't physically dying, but like mentally and emotionally, I felt like I was dying inside. I mean, and physically, I was hurting pretty bad too.
Well, there was light.
So,
right? Most of
what was that?
There wasn't a lot of light or hope being spoken into you. And I know there were a lot of limitations that came, or at least in certain like doctors' offices or things that they told you could and couldn't do, or that you would be limited by. I mean, there was some, yeah, right. You were put in a box.
Oh, completely. I mean, even when I did ask like my regular doctor, who was my husband's doctor, I see and love him, and I'm glad he listened to just some different things I researched, because mainstream, it's not okay, or there's not a lot of science behind it, or it's not the norm. So yeah, definitely navigating that. I was able to find a Lyme disease doctor in Missouri. Sorry, a little backtrack there, but I had undiagnosed Lyme disease too. So that was another thing I was battling at the time too. And so I was able to get to him, but he wasn't able to see me for he's 4 or 5 months. That backed up. So in the meantime, I kept seeing you for chiropractic care because I knew that was helping my nervous system and helping things to function better. The big thing that I learned with Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever even is just detoxing your body, putting healthy things in, getting the bad stuff out. It was a lot though. It was an emotional roller coaster because, like I said, I didn't know what was working and what wasn't. And I was spending all this money because everything I was doing, insurance doesn't pay for, right? And it was a lot.
And so, what, of those supports now, you, I'm trying to get us to the point where, because at one point they said, like, even to the point you wouldn't have kids. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. I mean, all kinds of things. And the crazy thing is there's research on it, but not a lot.
right.
So, I mean, like I said, some doctors told me this tick illness isn't a thing in Kansas. You don't have this, or like you said, some doctors said you can't have kids, or I remember another doctor had said, oh, only animals can get tick illness. It's just all kinds of crazy things. And so you're right. It did not put me in a good headspace. I remember too that one day I came to your office and I was so focused on just that diagnosis, oh, there's something actually wrong with me. And so I was still in that fight or flight mode and just like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Why is this happening to me, for me, right? And so I was just in that, like you said, that space, that headspace where I couldn't see out of it or see past it, even though I was doing all these things, trying to help my body. And I remember that day you were like, this is just like one little thing, this is one little thing you have to get over. One of my favorite quotes right now is by Glennon Doyle, and it's the truest, most beautiful life is never easy. I wish I would have read that back then. But if I knew, right?
Right.
Oh.
And some lessons you have to
so fast.
Yeah. And some lessons only come the hard way, right? And I look at the woman I see on the screen right here, and the woman you like just evolved into being. You had to work for her. Nobody handed you this strength. Like, you have had to work it. And I know we've cried tears together, and no one read the books for you, and no one found the doctors for you. You did have a web of team that came together, but it was your headspace and it was your heart space that you kept advocating for. And with something that there's not a lot of research or resources, like, if you don't become your doctor, so to speak, then what? Right. And so can you speak to that? Where did you tap into that thing? What helped you with your headspace and your heart space? What made it easier to find the light in the dark?
It took a while. I mean, so I was, sick in June of 2018. 4 months went by. It's like October 2018. You're still doing all the things, feeling a little bit better, but not like old Shelby, not normal. And so I had gone to the big idea, and I remember, I don't know what speaker it was, but they had said, this life is happening for you, not to you. And that just was so much to me, resonated so well. And at the time I was pregnant and didn't know it. So a week later I found out I was pregnant. And so I think at that time that was the trajectory for everything that happened going forward. Because then at that time, it wasn't just me, it was someone else too. And so I had to get out of that fight or flight mode, because it wasn't going to be good moving forward, with being pregnant, finding that out, and then not being healthy either. It would have just put me down into a deep, dark rabbit hole even further. And so at that time, I kept doing what I was doing. I think though I just completely shifted my train of thought. Instead of focusing on like the disease or what was happening to me, focusing on all the good things. I have a notebook that I like to call a journal, but it's just all kinds of crap written down. But I was looking back at it recently, and I just would write positive affirmations every day. Like, you cooked dinner tonight. You went out with friends tonight. Just stuff as simple as that, but just focusing on the positive. And that helped me so much. When I found out I was pregnant, it was October of 2018. And so that next month, I was able to get into the Lyme disease doctor in Missouri. He diagnosed the Lyme. And the reason that I thought I had Lyme disease is just, like you said, being my own doctor and researching, because I was feeling better with the treatments I was doing and the antibiotics, but not 100%. So there was an underlying disease going on still as well. And so at that time, it was really scary though, because I have this little human growing inside of me, and I have no idea how Lyme disease or Rocky Mountain spotted fever is going to affect what happens to them, or if the fetus is viable, or all these horrible things. And so I saw the Lyme disease doctor in November of 2018, and he just basically provided me a protocol that was heavily reliant on diet and nutrition and like some antibiotics, but a lot of the things I was already doing, because they do say less is more when you're pregnant, which now I feel like less is more in everything. But I continue to feel better. Yeah, I continue to feel better. And the Lyme disease doctor told me that kind of like people with autoimmune diseases, when they're pregnant, they start to feel better. And that was the same case for me. And I think all the work I had put in and all the things I was doing, and then just my mental headspace, like you said, helped so much. And so up until then, in February of 2019, I had taken antibiotics for like 7-8 months. It's a long time on antibiotics. And I was able to stop those because I wasn't symptomatic anymore. And after that, everything just was so good, like everything I had done and all the work I had put in, I was feeling better. I was excited. I wasn't scared. I wasn't in that fight or flight mode anymore.
Well, I would love, we'll try and put together some show notes of, if you have any resources that you would give back to you, right? I think what we find is that we end up, whatever our career path or whatever our passions or hobbies become, it generally comes out of this like wanting to be, the doctor that we needed, right? Like a lot of my drive to adjust babies comes from my son being really colicky and having a rough birth. And so I'm sure that this big heart and your, ability to sit here and have this conversation with me comes from understanding if you share your story, it's going to reach back and help somebody sooner, right? So if there is someone listening today that, thinks they might have an illness like this, or has recently been diagnosed with something like Lyme or a tick-borne illness that there isn't a lot of resource out, or maybe they haven't tapped into it yet, what would you say to them?
I think just to piggyback on what I said before is that you know if something's wrong. It's not up to the doctor to tell you something's wrong or for you to get that diagnosis. And so just to listen to that, because like I said, I didn't. And so if I didn't have my husband and then the people I surrounded myself with at that time tell me to listen to that or to listen to them, who knows where I would be right now, honestly. I mean, because with Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever can be deadly. And Lyme disease can become neurological and cause lots of neurological issues. And so I'm just so thankful for that, but also that I know a lot of people may not have that advocate or support in their life, but just know that what you're feeling is warranted and what you're going through is real.
It's been a lot this last year. And so I generally ask the speakers at the end, because I'm a mom, because I work with a lot of women, and there's just a lot of weight on mothers' shoulders, right? You were one of the warrior women that I got to support, but there's so many women having babies right now, right? This is a time of great chaos and uncertainty. But to the moms specifically, raising children in a storm of life, anything you'd specifically say to, because you do, like, not only were you advocating for your own health, but you were mom and you were, and you're working and you're doing all the things. Can you speak to the women, any words of encouragement to the mama bears of the world out there?
I think the main thing with that is so a good example, I guess, that is relatable to that is this last year when I was pregnant. I found out I was pregnant with the pandemic. And at that time, it kind of did put me into a little bit of fight or flight mode because all this unknown happening, pregnant again, different situation, this time, not sick, but all these unknowns and
Mm.
scary things on the news. And at that time, I had just made an appointment with my regular OB, went to see her, did the regular checks up until 28 weeks. And the whole time, I'm like, this isn't what I want. I don't want to do this. This doesn't feel right. And I kept going though, even based on all my like previous experiences. I wasn't listening to myself, trusting my knowing. And at 30 weeks, I switched care to a midwife. And so I think the biggest things for mamas, especially with pregnancy and birth, is if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Because I am so glad that I made that change, and can't imagine had I gone the other route.
And there's so many choices in the way that we show up. And I love, just your reference, Dr. Jess Langle's reference on this one. My sister shared on this one, Dr. Amelia Rodrock, when she talked about breast implant illness on an earlier episode, Rachel Hauber, when she was sharing about her story with Baker. There's all this conversation around intuition and knowing and tapping into that. And I think we underestimate how loud our subconscious mind is, and how our subconscious habits are, and how much we've been programmed by good, bad, and different, by the way we were raised, by what we've learned in media, what we've learned in school. Like, change can be difficult. And so when we get these nudges, I don't know that we've been taught how to tap into our knowing and intuition. And that'll definitely be a place we go, because now this has come up multiple times on intuition. And your story just, getting to see it evolve, and getting to see you and the girls this week, and the amount of light around you, right? We wear the Expect Miracles shirts in the office, and it's cases like yours where it's not like a miracle was only this thing that God created here on earth, but that you called out for, that you believed in, that you advocated for, that like if it's to be, it's up to me. There is a warrior spirit that comes with manifesting miracles too. So, I gotta love on you there, Shelby, because like this could have gone a lot of different ways for you, and you expected miracles and you chased them down.
Yeah, completely. I was just thinking back today that I am so glad that I did get sick with Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever, because it was a trajectory that completely changed my life, where I'm at today, who I am today, what my passions are. In my early to mid 20s, I was not going down a good path with my health and things that had happened in my life. My dad had passed away unexpectedly, and I had to deal with that and figure out the state and things like that. And so I was not nourishing my body, treating my body right. And so I am confident that is one of the reasons I did get sick, because a lot of people can get bit by ticks and they don't get tick illnesses. My husband did. He didn't get sick. And so a lot of it was what I was doing and what I was putting in my body and what I was feeding into my mind at that time too.
Oh, that for you and to you. That, right? If we wave a wand of this episode and people wake up tomorrow, that you get to decide this is happening for me, not to me. I am so grateful. Any other like last minute things, or if anybody, any last thoughts, or any ways that if somebody wants to connect with you or ask you a question, maybe there's somebody that is struggling with Lyme, how would they hunt you down if they had a few questions?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on Facebook, Shelby Klein. I'm on Instagram, and just search my name. But I'd be happy to answer any questions. I really have created a good support group for those things around me the last few years. And if I don't know exactly how to help you, I can figure it out or put you in the right direction, because it is a lot to navigate, and can take you down all these different roads and back roads and different things like that. And so it's a lot.
And she is absolutely a heart of gold. And I'm making a formal prediction on this episode in March of 2021 that you will see books and many, many resources and golden nuggets to come from this beautiful ray of light. She's in the mama bear season of life, but I've seen it maybe as this even all unfolded, that this story would be one that would serve the masses one day. So I'm grateful for your time, my love, and big things ahead. So thank you for being a light and shining so much light for others.
Thank you so much.